Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated. Thank you for joining us. I am Bolaji Akinwale. The growth of small and medium enterprises in many countries in the world has been identified as a vehicle for development, and in Nigeria, efforts have been made to revive SMEs. One of the steps been taken is the provision of what has been regarded as cheaper funds for small business owners. Our guest on the program is Executive Secretary of the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises in the country. He is Eke Ubiji. And now to some headlines. The World Bank plans to set aside about $5 billion to revamp the energy sector in some African countries. The World Bank Group has announced the commitment of 800 billion naira, that's an equivalent of $5 billion US, in new technical and financial support to energy projects in 6 African countries. The countries which have partnered the Power Africa Initiative of the United States are Nigeria, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Liberia, and Tanzania. In a statement, the bank quoted the president of the group, Dr. Jim Yong Kim, to have said the new financial commitment was urgently needed to generate more electricity for the people of Africa. Despite the fact that Africa possessed some of the world's largest hydropower, geothermal, wind and solar potential, as well as significant oil and natural gas reserves, 600 million of its population had no access to electricity. Nigerian firms have announced 150 billion naira in new equity capital raising this year as the rising stock market and expanding economy push companies to seek cheap capital for expansion. Higher stock valuations make it easier for lenders to raise funds through common equity, which dilutes existing shareholdings. Since the start of the year, about 10 companies cutting across the insurance, banking, oil and gas, agriculture, construction and healthcare sectors have either floated a rights issue or initiated plans to float one. These include Sovereign Trust Insurance plc, Diamond Bank, Awando, Starco Insurance, Unity Bank, Presco, May and Baker, Julius Berger and Evans Medical. Nigeria's stock market return was the best in Africa in 2013, rising 47%, an extension of the solid run seen in 2012. The equity market recently recorded a 674 billion naira growth in market capitalization in the 7-month period ending July 2014. With the primary market showing signs of rebound, companies have fallen back on shareholders. Rights issues imply a significant financial commitment by core investors as well as market stability within an economy. And the federal government has unveiled plans to deepen bilateral trade relations with the United Kingdom in order to attract fresh investments into the country. The Minister of State for Finance, Ambassador Bashir Yuguda, disclosed this during a meeting with the representatives of the United Kingdom Trade and Investment Agency to Nigeria. Yuguda said the investment should be in key productive sectors of the Nigerian economy, noting that this would help ensure inclusive growth, create wealth, and reduce unemployment in the country. It stated that the need for more investments became imperative since the rebasing of the Nigerian gross domestic product had revealed the new sectors where new investment would be needed to create jobs in the economy. Explaining that some UK firms might have left the country in the past, the minister noted that the investment climate fostered by the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan was more supportive and urged the UK to encourage more firms to return to the country. Yuguda, who stated that the Nigerian economy was now robust, noted that some multinational companies were already taking advantage of the prospects of huge returns by scaling up the investments in the country. About 220 billion naira has been set aside for disbursement to micro, small and medium enterprises in the country. Let's listen to Eke Ubiji, the Executive Secretary of the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Ubiji, for your time with us on the program. First of all, I'd like you to tell us what is the state of SMEs in Nigeria?
Yeah, That question is it's a tough one, but it's also answerable. What I mean by it's a tough one, but also answerable is that, yeah, SMEs are there in Nigeria, but they have a lot of challenges facing them. And those challenges have not been resolved very well. You know, as I do too, that one of them is the issue of access to fund, infrastructural challenges, and so on and so forth. So the issue of infrastructure, power is there. You know, that one is, we've been facing it for a long time. It's a very huge challenge. Access to fund is there because the issue of high interest rate for funds that SMEs will access through deposit money banks, the interest rate is very high. So these challenges are there. Access to markets. How many of the SMEs can go and market their products outside the shores of Nigeria? So even within the West African sub-region without facing challenges on their way. Or even going to Europe or America. So there are a lot of challenges, really. But it doesn't mean that those challenges are insurmountable. They are surmountable with determination and good policies.
All right, I know that funding has always been an issue for small-scale business owners. How has that been addressed so far?
I like the last point you put, so far. Not just now, but for some time till this moment. There have been a series of ways by which it's been addressed, but those ways have not really taken care of the issue of access to finance. I'm sure you heard of a SMIE scheme, Small and Medium Enterprises Equity Investment Scheme, that the Bankers Committee with the CBN introduced, how it was run, and at the end of the day, it was abrogated by the former CBN governor, Professor Soludo. After that, under the governorship of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, intervention funds came in, to which the Central Bank of Nigeria intervened to assist SMEs by giving funds to them through, not directly, but through the Bank of Industry and their deposit money banks. And also that one, the danger with that was that money that the SMEs need to access, not all of them were able to access it. There are many SMEs in the country. How many? If you look at the statistics given by National Bureau of Statistics, it said we have over 17 million SMEs in Nigeria, over 17 million, or even over 20 million. So if through intervention, how many SMEs will you reach? And among the SMEs, there are different categories. You have the micro, the small, the medium. Nobody is talking of large enterprises. They are the big players, big boys. They can take care of themselves. Which sector are you talking about? And each sector you are talking about has its own peculiar challenges. So you understand? But the CBN, under Sanusi, tried to come home to address the issue of access to finance. What I mean by that is that under Sanusi's governorship of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the MSME, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Fund, was launched 15th of August, 2013. The only difference is that it was not operationalized during Sanusi's tenure. But luckily, the new CBN governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, has operationalized it by what he did last week. There's a guideline for that anyway. It has been there. But what he did was to operationalize it, to see that, look, these policies see the light of day by even involving state governors in the operationalization, calling them to say, look, we can kickstart this idea. It's a good idea if we are really serious to address the issue of job creation, poverty reduction, and so on and so forth. And also toward the life of people who are the low part of the pyramid. The lower part of the pyramid. There are big players in the economy. You talk of the Nigerian breweries, Guinness, Cadbury's, and so on and so. There are many of them, but the SMEs play a major role in the area of employment generation, poverty reduction. Because when 2-3 SMEs employ, say, 2-3 people, you know how many people are taken off from the street. And if you have them many playing, acting the same way, then you can see that the issue of unemployment will be drastically reduced. But the major hindrance has been the challenges I mentioned earlier. A lot of them need money to really run their businesses. If you want them to employ more hands, infrastructure is there. Power is the major one. Access to market, because if you produce, you don't sell, you are not doing any business. So, but the decision of the new CBN governor to operationalize that idea of an MSME development fund is very good and is commendable. It's commendable.
Now, let's now go into more details as regards the 20 billion naira MSME fund. What is the state of that fund right now? Though you talked about the fact that it was launched last year. From that time till now, what's been going on with it?
Absolutely nothing. It was not operationalized. That's why I'm using the word operationalization. Means the money, it has been launched, the policy was launched. But to make it effective, so that those that need the money will access it, was not done. Until now that the new CBN governor came out. Putting the parameters very clear. The MSME guideline, the MSME Development Fund guideline, it has its own guideline that stipulates what should be done, how it should be done. So it's now that it was the MOU between the CBN governor and the state governors was signed last week, that you can talk of operationalizing it. And even talked about those who will participate in the process. They call them PFIs, participating financial institutions, microfinance banks, microfinance institutions, NGOs, cooperatives. These are the major players. You understand? And through these major players I've talked about, then clients, that's the MSMEs, will now access the fund to do their business. Another major departure from what was happening in the past is the issue of, if you look at this MSME Development Fund, I said it targeted at those at the lower rungs of the ladder. Say 60% of that fund will go to women entrepreneurs or women-owned enterprises. We call them WOEs. That's the first time we have such a policy departure. That now you put down a fund and say 60% of the fund, that's 132